Chapter 5 of Tractate Kesubos further discusses laws of marriage and the marriage contract. The Mishnah says, although the general principle is that a virgin receives a marriage contract of 200 zuz while a widow gets 100, you can add to this if you want. This amount is collected by her upon her becoming a widow or a divorcee, no matter what stage of marriage she's in. Some say she only gets any extra more than the default minimum 200 or 100 if they separated after she was fully married. If they agree, they can write the contract as the legal minimums, 200 or 100, and then afterwards have her give him back some of the money. Some say if the Kesubos amounts are beneath the minimums, cohabitation between them is considered non-marital and impermissible. The Gemara says, it had to state that you're allowed to increase your Kesubos contract more than the minimum to say that there's not a principle of a set amount here to reduce the embarrassment of poor people. Further, a stipulation to add to the Kesubos is considered like the Kesubos contract itself, which has relevancy for several things, be it the woman selling her Kesubos, waiving it, impairing it, demanding it, and others. Further, it said that the Kesubos given to male children is not collected from encumbered properties. It's also ruled that non-intact movable property and designated land with one border can be collected from the Kesubos without an oath. It's also held that if somebody wrote a document of transfer, gave it to witnesses without legally acquiring it prior, they don't need to consult the donor prior to giving it. It's debated if we hold that it's only after the final stage of marriage that the woman collects any additions to the marriage contract, and this is further debated. It's said that we do hold like that. There are further unresolved questions on this. In regards to the method of reducing the Kesubos past its minimum by stipulating the full amount and then separately writing that she's giving money back to him, it's said that this only works if it's actually written. This is because it's a rabbinic decree regarding a certain matter which are treated stricter, so they'll be actually followed. Some hold that the Kesubos, however, is actually of biblical origin, and this is further discussed. It's a lengthy debate as to the legitimacy of orally reducing a Kesubos during select periods, be it at the beginning of the chuppah wedding ceremony, after that, but before cohabitation, and if it can be done after cohabitation. There are a few opinions within that as to when it would and wouldn't be permissible. New Mishnah. After the betrothal, if either party says they want to go to the actual marriage, the other can request time to prepare. A virgin or the groom are given 12 months to prepare. A widow is given 30 days. If the set time passes without them being married, the woman can eat of the husband's food or terumah if he's a Kohen. Some say all of his terumah should be given to her, some say half her food should be terumah. A woman who does yibum, the levirate marriage, until the actual marriage, she can't eat terumah. There are some particularities on this mentioned. It was later ruled that a woman can only start eating terumah once she enters the chuppah. The Gemara cites sources for these rulings from verses. It's forbidden and not allowed to set a wedding date for a minor that has her be married off while she's still a minor, particularly as it's rabbinically forbidden to have a minor daughter be betrothed anyways in the first place. However, it would be permissible to set a wedding date for such a daughter to be married once she becomes an adult, and there are related points on this discussed. It also discusses opinions as to how much terumah exactly must be given to a wife. There are sources for the other points also mentioned. New Mishnah. If somebody consecrated his wife's earnings, she can still support herself from them. If he consecrated the excess, it's a debate if it's still considered consecrated. The Gemara says some hold that a woman can tell her husband that he is obligated to support her, and she's not going to give her his income. The legitimacy of such a statement is debated. In regards to consecration of the wife's excess earnings, according to those that say it is consecrated, it's debated if it takes effect when the wife dies or if it takes effect immediately. The logic is debated. This for the discussion, it said we hold that if somebody tries to consecrate his wife's future earnings, it doesn't take effect, and the particularities of this are debated. This is discussed further. New Mishnah. The obligations of a woman to her husband are to grind grain for flour, to bake bread, launder clothes, cook, nurse her children, make his bed, and work with wool. If she brought one maidservant into the marriage, she doesn't need to grind, bake, or launder. If she brought 2 maidservants, she doesn't need to cook or nurse. If she brought 3, she doesn't need to make his bed or to work with wool. If she brought 4, she can just do nothing if she wants. Some say no matter how many maidservants she brings, she should still work with wool, as idleness brings to unchastity. Others say that if a husband takes a vow prohibiting his wife from working, they must divorce, as idleness brings to insanity. The Gemara says as grinding grain is typically done with a water mill, either she's just tending to the grinding or it refers to a hand mill. There's disagreement on the other points. It's said from a different source that if a couple gets divorced but the child refuses to nurse from anybody but with the mother, the ex-wife must still nurse the child and is paid. There's debate as to how old such a child is. It's held to be 50 days. There's further discussion on this and on how and when a child nurses. There's also related rulings on these laws in regards to nursing discussed. It also mentions many actions by a woman which could lead to unhealthy or unique children depending on what they do or eat or similar. It further discusses the wife's obligations to nurse, and it brings sources. It goes through the points on maidservants and also says that if she has 4, meaning she can do nothing in theory, some say she should still prepare her husband's wine, make his bed, and wash him. These are the only actions a nida, a menstruating woman, cannot do for her husband, although she can make his bed when he's not there, and you can mix the wine if it's done in some specific manners, like not placing it directly before him and otherwise, and there are related points discussed. There's further discussion, and we said that there was an argument if idleness brings to infidelity or to insanity, and there's a practical difference if the woman is occupied with playing with puppies or with chess. New Mishnah. If a man takes a vow that his wife can't cohabit with him, Beis Shammai says if it was for 2 weeks, it's fine. Beis Hillel says if it's for 1 week, it's fine. Longer than that, they must divorce. Students can leave their wives to study Torah without permission for 30 days. Laborers can leave for a week. The conjugal rights to a woman are as follows. Tayalin, which will be defined, are obligated every day. Laborers are obligated twice a week. Donkey drivers once a week. Camel drivers once every 30 days, and sailors once every 6 months, according to Rabbi Eliezer. The Gemara gives sources for these points. There are related points on this discussed. It also argues what a tayalin is. Some say it's a person who's totally self-sustaining and is not required to pay taxes. Some say it's a very healthy person, and it gives instances of individuals of great health. Laborers' conjugal rights were twice a week if they work in their town, and it's once a week if they work in a different town. There are related points. It says that a husband shouldn't change his job that'll keep him away from his wife for longer. It also says that this is the opinion we hold, like in regards to Rabbi Eliezer's list of mandated conjugal obligations. It also mentions an incident of a sage who was so engrossed in learning he forgot to go home to be with his wife, and his wife was so sad she cried, and the floor that the sage was sitting on collapsed and he died. It says Torah scholars should be with their wives on Shabbos Eves, which is based on a verse. There are a few related instances discussed. There's a very famous story on the life of Rabbi Akiva. He started as an illiterate shepherd of a man named Ben Kalba Savua, whose daughter, Rachel, saw that Akiva was a good man and offered to marry him on the condition that he one day became a Torah sage. He agreed, but Rachel's father was very upset with all this, and he disowned her and took a vow against giving them his possessions. Akiva spent 12 years studying Torah and returned as one of the greatest sages of his time, with 12,000 students accompanying him. When he reached his house, he overheard a man criticizing Rachel for having his wife leave him for so long, and he heard her say, if he was here right now, I'd have him learn for another 12 years. So Rabbi Akiva took this and went immediately back and learned for another 12 years, and then returned with 24,000 students. So Rachel's neighbors tried to have her borrow expensive clothes to dress and greet him, but she wore what she had, and she approached him to greet him, and Rabbi Akiva's students started pushing her away, not knowing who she was, and Rabbi Akiva stopped them, saying both his and all of your portions of Torah belong to her. Anyways, Rachel's father, Ben Kalba Savua, heard that a great sage had come to town, not knowing that it was his son-in-law, so he wanted to annul his vow to support his daughter. He spoke to the sage, again not knowing it was Rabbi Akiva himself, and Rabbi Akiva asked him if he would have made his vow if he knew his son-in-law would have become a great sage, and Ben Kalba Savua said he wouldn't have if he knew his son-in-law would have learnt even a single chapter or law. So Rabbi Akiva revealed who he was, and Ben Kalba Savua gave him half his possessions. Rabbi Akiva and Rachel's daughter ended up doing a very similar thing to her husband, Ben Azai, sending him away for a long while to learn Torah. And there are a few other related incidents. New Mishnah: if a woman refuses to fulfill her marital obligations, you deduct 7 dinars a week from her marriage contract. Others say 7 trapaks, which was a different type of coin. Some say he stops when the Kesubos has nothing left. Others say you just keep going and deduct the amount from any inheritance she gets. If a man refuses to fulfill his marital obligations, he adds 3 dinars a week to the Kesubos, and others say 3 trapaks. The Gemara argues that the situation is that the woman is refusing to cohabit with her husband or to do work. This is further debated. The method of this instance is described, and there's further discussion on these laws, and it debates exactly what the trapeak currency was. Some say it was worth half a zuz, and it brings sources. It also says that a woman is charged more for refusing her marital obligations, as men typically are much more desiring of women in a more noticeable manner. New Mishnah: if somebody provides to his wife through a third party, he cannot give her less than 2 kav, a measurement of wheat, or 4 kav of barley per week. There's debate if she's given a barley stipend. He also gives half a kav of beans and oil, a kav of dried figs, an amount of pressed figs, and if he has none, he gives from a different fruit. He must also give her a bed, a soft and hard mat, a hair kerchief, a belt, and shoes from holiday to holiday. Also clothes worth 50 zos from year to year, being new clothes in the winter, and she wears them in the summer and she gets to keep each year's old clothes. He also gives a silver ma'ah a week from her other needs, and she eats with him on Friday nights. If he doesn't give the silver ma'ah, she gets to keep her own earnings. The woman's obligations are to spin the weight of 5 sala'im of warp thread in Judea, or the weight of 10 sala'im of weft thread in Judea, which are the equivalent of 20 sala'im in Galilee. If she's nursing, her earning amounts are reduced in exchange for food. These amounts have all been minimums for the poor. If you're any wealthier than this, it goes according to what you make. The Gemara debates the author of this Mishnah based on differing opinions on these laws. It's further discussed in regards to the barley. Those that paid double the barley amount, that was because theirs was of poor quality. It also says that there's no wine stipend, and it cites verses, although some say we do give it if she's accustomed to drinking wine. Some say if a woman is accustomed to drink 2 cups of wine when her husband's there, she's given 1 cup when her husband's not there, and if a woman is accustomed to drink 1 cup by her husband, she's not given any cups at all when he's not there. This for the discussion. Some say, the other opinions say if a woman is accustomed to drinking, we give her wine for cooking, and there are related points on it not being good to drink in general. The mats the husband must give her are for her bed, to make it comfortable. The constant need for shoes was because this was authored in a mountainous region, and also we want the woman to be happy by the holidays. It further discusses the different worth of the clothes. When it says she eats with him on Friday nights, some say this means literally they eat together, some say this is a reference to relations. This is debated based on sources, and it also says that by a nursing woman that you add wine, which helps nursing. And that's the end of chapter 5.